you wanted a super saloon, the car you'd buy is the BMW M3. There's no questions about that. If you didn't like the BMW, you'd go for a Mercedes-AMG, and if you didn't like Mercedes, well then you'd go to Audi and buy an RS product. But now, I think you'd buy one of these. This is the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, and it's been out a few years, so you will have already seen it. But is this really better than the BMW M3? Well, I think it is. Put it simply, this car actually calms down, unlike the M3 where on a back road, if you're in its hardest setting, you're sort of fidgety, you're a bit all over the place. Whereas here, you could genuinely use this every day in comfort for hours on end. It's sublime. The suspension system is absolutely brilliant. This engine is the swan song though. It is beautifully linear, it's super smooth at cruising speeds, it's super quiet, but even with the valves completely open, inside it's fairly quiet and refined. Have a little listen to this. Yes, this is an Italian engine. This is beautiful. It's not like the German engines where you get the bucket load of torque, despite it still being turbocharged. The M3 is notorious for it, hence why so many got crashed. You get that spike of torque just after 2,500 RPM, whereas this, it builds more in, about 3,000, but it holds on to that power all the way to the red line, something the German engines just simply don't do. The other beautiful thing about this is the steering. It's got a really quick steering rack, and the front end can really tuck in quite nicely into a corner, and the rear likes to follow suit, but you can provoke the rear. You've got 505 horsepower on offer from a 2.9 litre twin turbo V6, which means if you want to go sideways you can do, but the only problem is the transmission, the differential doesn't tend to like it too much, and you end up with overheating messages quite quickly and telling you to pull over and calm down for a bit. And a lot of you will be sitting there thinking, it was an Alfa Romeo, so it's going to break at some point. And it's true, there has been some reliability issues still with the Giulia, which is a shame because this was the resurgence of Alfa that we were all hoping for, in a sector that they haven't really been present in for the last 10 or 15 years, and they certainly haven't been right at the top where they are now for probably the last 40 or 50 years. Which is saying something about the Giulia. Now this is from a dig with all the traction control off. And it does move about a bit on this road. It's fairly bumpy. I did have the dampers in the hardest setting there, but I've just put down 503 horsepower for a rear wheel drive car. What is surprising is just about how nimble it is on a road like this, where you've got really narrow lanes and really quite tight corners, but even in a wide car you can tuck it in and have just about enough confidence to travel at a decent pace without feeling like you're going to crash at any point, which is obviously a benefit. Brakes are beautiful. Alfa Romeo have done a good job of saving weight on this car as well. The doors are all aluminium. Parts of the suspension system and above are aluminium. The bonnet though is a masterpiece because it's all carbon fibre, which you can get on an M4. If you want to spend £8,000 you can get it, yeah. I don't think I could do this in an M3 on this road, to be honest with you. It's far too tail happy. You get too much diesel-like levels of torque mid-corner, especially in the early versions of the M3. And you end up fighting all of the time, whereas this you're with it, you're working with the car the whole time. And it feels a much more exotic place to be. I know I'm saying that because it is Italian, and this engine, despite what Alfa Romeo says, has roots to Ferrari. And it's got the same bore and stroke as the Portofino Cali T. In those cars, it's beautiful. In this, it's the next level. Despite not being a dual clutch system like you get in the M cars and the AMGs, this ZF is beautiful. It's really quick, and these aluminium paddles, well, I'd expect them on my 488. I wouldn't expect them in a saloon, but man, they are welcome. It is absolutely fantastic, and my word is it fast. on that note, it's turbocharged. So if you want a bit more power, the likes of Celtic Tuning and other people, they're offering up to 600 horsepower. If that's where you want to go, you can upgrade turbos. Biggest modification I would do is to the exhaust, either by removing the module that opens the valves and just having it open the whole time, or replacing the whole system with a new Bluetooth module. There are a few niggles with it. The infotainment system, for starters, feels like it's 2 generations old in the likes of the Mercedes, and there are a few not very nice plastics to touch in the cabin. There is the leather on top, which this car has been optioned with the green and white stitching which follows it round, which is beautiful, but beneath that there's this horrible sort of soft scratchy plastic which it feels a bit cheap, especially in comparison to like the Mercedes. But in the Mercedes you do pay more. 75-ish is going to get you a C63 for sub £70,000. I think this is the car you'd pick. I mean, you'd want it new with the warranty granted, because there's likely going to be niggles, but M4s have the crank hub problem. C63s, we know about their unreliability over the years when they've been pushed to the edge. So take a gamble and buy what is probably the best car on the market today. It has the practicality of any SUV. It's pretty, it sounds brilliant, and it goes like the clappers. What more do you want? Finally, there's an Alfa you can actually pull the trigger on and love every day.